You guys, this episode is fantastic. My great friend John Bannister stopped in. Some of you may know who that is. We went to Hyles Anderson College together, and we both have a similar background growing up and, of course, college and even after college. So we're both outside of the IFB now, the Independent Fundamental Baptist Cult. But if that's something that you have interest in, or if you've enjoyed podcasts in the past where we talked about Hyles Anderson College, you're sure to enjoy this episode. I guarantee it. Also, me and John were raised with a certain belief around disciplining your children, which we now believe to be untrue. So if that's something that you've struggled with, or you have questions about, or you just want to find out more information about it, this episode is absolutely for you. So once again, thanks so much for tuning in. As always, I appreciate your feedback, appreciate your support more than you probably know. Thank you so much, and enjoy this episode of Not Your Mother's Podcast. My name's Stuart. This is my good friend John, and this is the Not Your Mother's Podcast. Cheers. Cheers. Wow. Okay. So it seems every time we have John on, and thank you for being with us again, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. We're going to talk about alcohol because, as I've said before, or I don't know where this episode will drop in relation to the others, so that may not come out right.
Yeah.
But John is a aficionado of the finer alcoholic beverages, and so we're going to talk about what he got, because John has brought his own alcohol. I drink a lot of whiskey generally, and even the great whiskey, at least what I've had, can still be pretty caustic and really bite. Tastes good, but the full flavor really bites for me.
Right.
That wasn't even, there was no bite there.
Yeah,
it was
no,
just
so we got
smooth.
Yeah, so we got a rum. Traditionally, a lot of people like to mix their rums and like Coke and stuff like that and mixed beverages. This is Kirk Sweeney. It's off of some boat.
Kirk and Sweeney.
Kirk and Sweeney.
Okay.
Thank you for the correction. I have a 23-year-old one at home. It's fabulous. California doesn't stock it. It's hard to get across the border for some reason.
Not really a big surprise.
But this is a 12-year.
California sucks at something else. What do you know?
Yeah, but it's better at something.
This is delicious.
Yeah, it's good.
We will not speak of whatever those things are. At any rate, this is a 12-year, and it is.
It's
delicious.
fabulous.
It's
got hints of vanilla, so if you are a Coke mixer, you can go ahead and mix that in with your Coke, and it'll be like vanilla Coke. But straight, it's good too. So.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Good stuff.
So thank you for bringing that. That's fucking amazing. I know from time to time I'll get things, not necessarily here on the podcast, but from time to time I'll get feedback to let me know that you guys, not necessarily y'all, but like some people are unappreciative of the bashing that goes on, and I get that. But it's Not Your Mother's Podcast, and it's kind of my podcast, and so I kind of talk about whatever's on my mind, and whenever that's not on my mind anymore, then I won't talk about it. But it's still on my mind, and so me and John have been through not the same, but our situations, our lives bear a lot of similarities.
Right.
And they don't bear a lot of similarities just from Hyles Anderson College. There were similarities before either of us got there. So we're going to kind of backtrack from the normal conversation that we have about college or current cult leadership, things like that. We're going to backtrack a little bit, at least for the beginning here, and we're going to talk about childhood, growing up. And I know I've talked about growing up in a cult before, but we're going to go a little bit different direction this time. The one thing, and John can speak to this personally, but I'll speak for myself. The one thing that anytime I talk about my childhood or growing up in the IFB cult, I like to, I don't know if preface is the right word, but I always like to make the statement that I love my parents to death. I really do.
Yeah.
And, John feels the same way about his parents. I don't think you know my parents, but...
No, but they produced a good product right there.
Thank you.
I mean, 4 years that Hyles Anderson couldn't have done what your parents did, that's for sure.
True.
They would tell you different. But,
yeah, they'd be wrong. So,
oh, man.
But at any rate, I do want to make that statement right up front because of the area that we're going to be getting into, the things we're going to be talking about. One of the big things when it comes to, I wouldn't say all cults, but the ones that I'm familiar with, including the IFB, there's I am tired of the statement, there's a lot of good people in it. I'm not saying that there's not,
Right.
but that statement is kind of a cop out for what's really going on inside that cult and other cults.
Right, and there's good people in it.
Yeah.
But they're being programmed to do very wrong things.
Exactly,
and
and
they're
that's
set up for failure, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
if you can perform good at first, that's fine. But
That's
it's
what
going to
counts.
eventually bite you in the butt.
It's going to.
There's going to be a lot of sorrow
Yeah.
and hurt. Yeah.
And the point that I wanted to make was, I feel like people like my parents, your parents, and other good people that were or are in the cult have been manipulated and are passing on those manipulative tendencies to whoever's beneath them, whether it's who they teach in Sunday school, whether it's their own children, whether it's their neighbors, whoever it is, they're passing that on. So we don't do this podcast, and we don't say the things we're going to say to be angry or mean or in any way, demeaning towards our family members, especially our parents. But these were our experiences, and so we're going to tell them how they happened to us.
Right.
So I'll give just a brief overview synopsis of growing up.
Yeah.
Not even just the cult, just when and where. So I was born in the middle of the 1980s, and I was born in Hammond, Indiana, the Mecca of fundamentalism.
Jeez.
Yeah, I was born. Now I have trouble remembering. John
you were born
can
on
tell us-
Sibley Street? In that
Yeah,
dark
right?
room?
Dude,
Oh,
I was honestly born like 2 blocks away.
Really?
It's either St. Margaret's or St.
Oh, there
Mary's.
is one. Is
What
it
is
towards the grocery store?
Yes, towards
Yeah,
Strauss.
yeah.
I think it's St. Margaret's.
I don't know the name. Yeah, I don't
It's
know
St.
the name,
Margaret's.
but
We're going to
it's
say
there.
St. Margaret's. Correct us if we're wrong. I should actually have asked John before we jumped on here, because John Warden was born at the same hospital.
Yeah, you guys were
Hospital
hospital
baby
bros.
buddies. But at any rate, that's where I was born. And then right after that, my parents, I think my dad had graduated right before or after. I was born, let's see, it was October. So at any rate, not long after I was born, I don't think I was quite a year old, my dad took a small country church in a town called Ober, Indiana. The nearest big town was Knox, Indiana. They had 2 stoplights.
Cool.
2? Yeah, 2 stoplights. Yeah, it was definitely more than a 1-horse town. There were lots of horses.
Yeah.
But at any rate, so that's where I grew up, and then we moved around a bit. But from the day I was born, I was in the Independent Fundamental Baptist cult. That was from the day I was born until I'd say 26, 27 years old, something like that. Probably, no, yes, 26, 27 is when I got out. So that entire block of my life was very much consumed by the Independent Fundamental Baptist cult.
Gotcha.
And so growing up in that was growing up in it was normal, because it was all I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And when you grow up inside something, or you're indoctrinated early, and it's nearly all you know, it seems very normal, very, this is just how it is. And even when someone says to a 15-year-old me, like, dude, that's weird or strange, you're like, it's been this way my whole life, and I'm 15. It's fine. It's normal. But so that was my experience, and I'll talk about more specifics and details. We're going to get into specific subject matter. But tell me about your experience, because I don't think you were born into it. Is that correct?
No, I wasn't born
Okay.
into it. I was born in church, of course. And once again, just to piggyback off of what Stuart was saying too, I had the most fabulous parents out there. My mom, man, she could teach you how to love anybody, and my dad taught me how to work, and I wouldn't be anywhere without those two.
It's awesome.
And another play out to my dad too, because I kind of called him the A word on one of the other podcasts.
On
Which,
another
if you really
episode.
see what I was saying, I didn't call him an ass.
No,
I
no,
was
no.
being an ass.
That was
right?
you.
But anyway, but yeah, no, my dad is a guy that no matter what happens, you push through it, and you get through it, and you get things done.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter what you've done, you just pick yourself up and keep going, right? So anyway, I was born in Joliet, Illinois, which we all know if you're from Hammond, where that's at. It's a suburb of Chicago. But I didn't know anything
Right.
about IFB. I mean, I'm not sure. They
So
might have been Independent Fundamental Baptist, but I'm not sure. I have no
So
idea.
you
what
were
that
born
term
in the
was.
80s, right?
I was born in the 80s.
And so you lived in Joliet, but you didn't have any knowledge of First Baptist Church Hammond.
None
That's
whatsoever.
crazy.
And
That's
I went
crazy.
to Calvary
me.
Baptist Church. Once again, great church, great ministry there. Tons of good friends still to this day from that church. But yeah, so we went to Calvary ever since I was born till the age of 8.
Okay.
And I never heard anything about Hiles. I know
That's funny.
some of my friends ended up going to Ridgewood Academy, which I believe played basketball against Hiles.
HB.
HBs,
Hammond Baptist, yeah.
And of course, they were always weirded out by all the strict rules and stuff.
Yeah.
But the church that I was a part of, we would have pool parties, we would have fellowships, we would go out to eat, have fun, relax, and never, from my perspective anyway, no bad thoughts, no bad agendas, any of that stuff, right? Never heard anything about mixed swimming. None of those taboo topics.
Mixed swimming.
Anyway, so then from there, we always vacation in Minocqua, Wisconsin every single year. I believe that was from when I was born to or close to it.
Yeah.
So we vacation in Minocqua, Wisconsin with another family every single year. And then my dad had the desire to go ahead and move up there.
Okay.
And my dad wanted to move, my mom not so much.
You were how old?
When we moved, I was 8 years old. We moved on my 8th birthday.
Oh, wow.
Like, once again, my weird memory kicks in.
Yeah,
I went to Grandma's house and opened up my present. It was Tasmanian devil underwear. And I was like, yeah, that is awesome, right? I love Taz.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was a big impression on my life.
For
Obviously.
Sure. Clearly.
Then I got into fundamentalism and it erased it all.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding. Anyway,
it definitely erased some of mine.
So then we moved up to Wisconsin. My dad moved up first. And once again, our upbringing wasn't you go find a church and move your family to it. It was my dad wanted to live there.
Right.
We had fun times there as a kid. That's a place I would like to live. We're gonna go.
You relocated for the experience, not for a clergy or a church.
No, not at all. That was an afterthought. Which in IFB, of course, they would say that that'd be a disaster.
It would. Yeah, that's the end of the world. Absolutely.
Right, but that was not the motive that we went up there. But what ended up happening was my dad went up there. He got in a horrible car accident, almost died, but came back, healed up. He had a job up there, and then he would say, you know, and I'm sure it was, but God was working on his life or whatever, in whatever capacity it was at that time. And so my dad really felt like God was trying to do something in his life, and he wasn't where he thought he needed to be type thing, right? And so all of a sudden we started, it's like all about looking for churches. We would have gone to church anyway. We were very active in the church that we were in before. But anyway, when we got up there, right before we got up there, my dad was looking at all these different churches.
Right.
And something stood out to him that maybe it stood out when he was a kid, but in any of the churches I went in, I never even heard KJV mentioned.
Really?
Once.
Wow. But did they use the KJV?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, but they didn't. It wasn't like a big deal. Like if you don't use it, you're the devil.
Not that I know of. If there was stuff in the adults' minds, maybe.
Right.
But not as a kid. I never heard anything about that.
Okay.
I didn't hear stuff about dress and all this other stuff. Like it was totally removed. So anyway, but what stood out to me as a kid was we were trying out all these churches. And there was bigger churches that had youth groups and stuff like that. It was cool. They were nice or friendly. But for whatever weird reason, there was a hang-up about the KJV.
Yeah.
And I think what it more so was what we're familiar with, or we remembered this pastor when we were a kid talking about the KJV. And we don't really know why, but it's important. So we're going to hold on to that one. And so while my dad was looking up there for a church, he found a church that like 3 ladies were at. And they were listening to a tape recorder of Jack Hiles. And so...
Gotcha. So he walked, he found a church, he walked in the front door just to kind of survey it, and that's what he walked into.
Yeah, he went into the auditorium, nobody was there, but he could hear something playing, so he walked downstairs, here's 3 ladies sitting there. And I think that really pulled on my dad's heart a little bit, because he's like, wow, this is real to them.
Yeah.
And once again, not knowing anything about Hiles, not knowing anything about First Baptist Church Hammond, that was our introduction to that. So long story short, we ended up there.
Okay.
And that's where I was introduced.
And that was an IFB church. I mean, clearly,
that was an IFB church.
Listening to Jack.
It wasn't a college student. I think the guy was a bus kid from there, and he ended up in that area. That was my first introduction to First Baptist.
Okay. And then...
And fundamentalism.
Yeah. Okay, so, again, for me, at no point until the age of, I would say 25 or 26. Well, no, until the age that I got out was anything that we did or said inside of that cultish atmosphere foreign. It was never foreign. It was always like, no, this is just the way it is. This is how we do things. The dress, the standards, you're not allowed to go to movies, all that bullshit was just like, no, it's commonplace. But would you say for you there was a point of realization as a child or a young adult, a teenager, where you were like, oh, like, not necessarily that it's wrong, because if your parents are the ones telling you this is how it's going to be, it's rarely would you assume that it's wrong. But was there a point when you noticed a difference, or what were some things that were different?
So there was definitely things that were weird, but of course my family, they were always about respect, and you know, your parents, you do what your parents say, you know, and different things like that. But we went to these churches, and I think it related to my parents' like childhood culture. Of, oh wow, America has slipped kind of deal. This guy was more mild than any other First Baptist Church person. Once again, he was like a bus kid. He wasn't
preaching America, in his sackcloth, or what was that? Was that supposed to be
sackcloth and ashes?
Yeah, no, it wasn't though. It was, he called it something else.
I don't know.
It was made out of burlap.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was called sackcloth. Maybe it was. Anyways.
I don't know. He didn't rent his clothes though. Never saw that.
What do you mean didn't rent his clothes? Oh, someone saw it. Someone saw it. Trust.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But you're supposed to rent those things.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Anyway.
If you're gonna be biblical, go full.
For those of you that are like, what in the world? That's like ripping your clothes off.
Yeah, exactly. And don't. If you don't know who we're talking about, that's better.
Yeah, that's good.
Visit the federal pen in Kentucky. You'll find out quick.
But
sorry, I had to interject.
Yeah, it's
so the
all right.
difference is when you got into this.
So anyway, so when we went in as a kid, like, we were very active in sports. My dad was like, I mean, not so much education, and of course, he wasn't the best in school either, but sports mattered, and team mattered, and it was always about, up till we moved up there, it was always like, you don't let your team down, like, you show up when the team does, you play as hard as you can, you do your best. It was all about character. Even if you're sitting on the bench, you show up and you're there, right? And where it started to affect my brother and I, totally. But my brother and I, where we started to really struggle a little bit was, now we got involved in this church, we would have basketball tournaments on the weekend after the season was over, right? We would always go before. It wasn't even a question.
Right. And now?
Then it was all this little stuff where it's like, you need to take a stand for Jesus, so you can't play on Sunday. It's like, but wait, we're like in the first place championship game, and now
I can't.
And we didn't tell them this ahead of time.
Right.
Now we need to take a stand for Jesus.
Yeah, but you should. Right. You shouldn't have to, because you were in church before and this wasn't an issue.
Exactly.
But now suddenly with this church,
and nobody would have even questioned it. Nobody would have said, "Oh, you're a reprobate" or any of that stuff, right? And so now we did it. It was the most embarrassing thing I've ever experienced in my life.
I think that's very interesting to note that there's such an emphasis put on church attendance, and there's plenty of other denominations, or even similar Baptist denominations. Shouldn't say. I think that's redundant, but Baptist churches that they want you to be there, but if you're not there, it's okay, it's whatever. Like I had a friend text me the other day, and she said a mutual friend of ours saw her mom at church. This is a convoluted story, but a mutual friend of ours saw her mom at church, so he texted her and was like, "Hey, saw your mom today." Like, she hasn't been to church in months, and she doesn't regularly attend. But he wanted to reach out. You know why? This is not going to air anywhere near the right time for me to say this, but whatever. He reached out because the next Sunday was Easter Sunday. So you got to get those numbers on Easter Sunday. Gotcha. It's just, to me, there's just this. How many times did you hear, "We missed you at whatever it was this week"? Thursday night soul winning, Saturday morning soul winning, Sunday night church, Wednesday night church. Missed you on Wednesday this week.
By the way,
I've said it plenty of times.
I had no idea what soul winning was.
Oh really? Oh yeah.
I didn't even know.
So in the other, well, I mean, at 8, if in a not so zealous church, I guess you wouldn't have to.
Yeah, right. And you know what? That was a fascinating thing to me too, is because in the IFB churches, when they talked about soul winning, they would always like bash relationship evangelism, right?
What do you mean?
Like having a relationship with somebody, just like, and then
there was a word.
There was a word. I forget.
Man,
something evangelism.
I think it was, but it wasn't personal evangelism. I don't think, but there was a. But I know what you're talking about, where it's like, you let your actions speak for themselves. You don't got to knock on someone's door and interrupt their cartoons on Saturday morning. Just the people at work and the people you run into, they're going to notice this amazing spirit about you.
Right.
Now, the IFB wanted that too.
They wanted soul winning.
But
and when they wanted soul winning, it was like Saturday morning, Thursday night, like standard, right? Yeah. And on Saturday morning and Thursday night, they give you a pep talk.
Yep.
You'd have your 45 minutes that you'd go out, right? Yep. And you go knock on these doors. hour. Oh, if it was Saturday, it was different.
Yeah, it
How we
was.
would do it on Thursdays at some of the churches I was at was we'd go blitz doors, knock on doors,
Yep.
and then we go grab something to eat, come back to
Yeah.
Thursday night church is what we had in Iowa.
Oh, okay. Yeah, a lot of churches do Wednesday or Thursday night.
Yeah, we did Thursday so the pastor could go out and preach and go raise money for everything else on Wednesdays because everybody else had it on Wednesdays.
Okay.
So Thursdays was better for profits.
For them, yeah, for profits, yeah, for sure.
So,
but that's just, I don't know. We could literally talk about soul winning all night.
Yeah, but there's one point that I really want to hit with the soul winning thing is what I realized, because that was part of my transition too, is I'm like, we're talking about a relationship with God and being the light of the world and all that stuff. Once again, I was in the public school, no Christian school.
Right.
Like my dad was adamantly against no homeschooling, no Christian school, against it. And a lot of people would get frustrated with that mentality.
Big time, yeah.
But my dad's like, no, if you're the light of the world, like,
why not
go in
be
the world, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for all of you guys that might support that.
Like homeschoolers?
You look in the Bible, like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Moses, all these people were ripped from their homes at a very young age.
Yeah.
And if God was good enough in that situation to make a difference.
Yep, absolutely.
But anyway, I don't want to get too much on that. We talk about taking prayer out of the public schools. We talk about taking all this stuff. No, you walked out of the public schools and secluded your kids, and you hid your candle under a bushel, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that bothers me. Sorry, that's my little rant.
No, it's good.
But once again, all of these things, when I'm doing the transition, I'm sitting there as a kid where I'm like, these kids are in the Christian school.
Right.
I'm a different class citizen, but like they're better, but yet they don't deal with the things that I do. But I'm not drinking, smoking, and chewing and doing all that stuff. But they all are, and they're in the Christian school. Like it was just very weird, right? It was crazy, and actually that was good. I was very appreciative of my dad taking that stand. But one of the things that started to change was the church attendance. I remember that was one of the first things.
Do you remember? So I remember because you couldn't go to the movie house, right? The theater, they called it the movie house the whole time.
That's another thing I used to go to the theater all the time too.
Wicked. So, but we weren't allowed. Like that was against the rules. Was it against the rules there, and you just went anyways, kind of?
No. So once again, in my upbringing, we always
no. But once you went to this new one.
Oh, new church? No, the first stage, it was okay. Like, and even if he would have told us something different, once again, that's a church of like 10.
Right.
Like, what are they gonna do? Tell this supposedly solid family?
Right.
Which we weren't like a solid spiritual family.
Yeah, but you were.
But there. You know how it is in fundamentalism, a small church. You grab the image,
the ones that are taken,
and you put them up in front of everybody.
And the money, like if you can get both those in one, you're golden.
Yeah,
absolutely. And the image, what he's saying is white picket fence. Yeah. Really, if you're that family, that's perfect.
Not divorced at the time, like had a solid job, all that stuff.
Yeah, well, and they're tithing.
And of course, my dad at the time, remember he was having the Great Awakening with the accident.
Yes.
So like he's feeding this in, and this is something my mom always dreamed about was that. And once again, this is not belittling them at all. This is just their upbringing. My mom wanted my dad to be this super spiritual person.
Yeah. And that's cults are so great. There's a TEDx talk, or not talk. There's a TEDx animated video. I don't know if you've seen it, and it describes how cults work. It's like 7 minutes long. Best 7-minute explanation. It's terrific.
Gotcha.
But what I was going to get at with the TV is I remember, or not the movies. I do recall growing up. Probably when was the Iraq War? I don't know when that was, but that was when we got a TV. Like we didn't have a TV at all. I wasn't watching cartoons. I wasn't watching movies.
September 11th?
No. The first
Before
one.
that. Oh, okay.
First Bush.
I was going to say, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, no.
TV, Stuart.
No. So.
Thank God your parents gave him a TV set.
Yeah, but listen to what happened to it. So we kept it for the Iraq War, which was the original Saddam Hussein and George W. Or George H. I don't know, the first Bush. Not the first George, first Bush. So when that was happening, and I want to say that was the early to mid 90s maybe.
Right,
I don't know.
Definitely.
I don't have anything to pull up right now. But then when the Iraq War was on, we got a TV to keep up with the Iraq War. I remember that.
Okay.
It was a little red TV. It was black and white, even though it was 1990 something. We had a little red black and white TV. And I'll never forget. We kept it past the. Now my dad was a pastor, and we were very much against TV, but we kept it past the war. And I remember. I don't think I was I wasn't a teenager yet, so I would have been like maybe 10 or 11. And I recall us keeping it past the war and thinking, all right, we're going to get to watch some goddamn TV.
It's like, bring on the war more.
More wars.
More war.
That's America. We're going to do it.
America.
Yeah, all. So we kept it past the war, and I remember vividly because this was my TV. I finally had a TV to watch whatever it was.
Yeah,
I don't even
that's
know what I was
crazy.
watching. There was nothing to watch.
Not
then.
Ninja Turtles.
Not Ninja Turtles. Probably like
My mom. My
whatever.
goodness. Mom and Ninja Turtles. I love you to death, but you ripped my
Come
Ninja
on.
Turtles from my life.
It's fucked up. You need to follow Mia Kang. I want to show her too. She loves Ninja Turtles. Anyways, so I recall one night we were up watching TV like the wicked sinners that we were, and some commercial. This is just, to me, this is comical. This isn't a dig at my dad. It's just funny. Some commercial came on and it pissed him off. Probably it was for ladies' razors and showed too much legs. I have no idea what it was, but it made it
Deodorant
super.
commercial.
Yeah, probably some Nair shit. So it pissed him off. I remember him yanking it out of. That wasn't in the wall, but like unplugging it in one fell swoop, marching out to the, because we had a burn barrel, marching out to the burn barrel and slam right down to the bottom of the burn barrel.
Goodness.
And that was it. And we didn't have TV. We never had, for the rest of my life that I can recall, and I could be incorrect, we never had TV again. Now we got what back in the day we would call a monitor, which just played VHS tapes. And we did end up getting those later on, and we would all we would get was like feature films for the family, stuff like that, or rent movies from the library that were G-rated. But we never had live TV.
That's interesting. Yeah, because when I grew up, I mean, we were watching Bears games every single Sunday.
Nice.
For the first 8 years of my life.
Yes, okay.
And all the sports. I mean, the Bulls going through their heyday. Like I loved it. You know, John Paxson hitting the 3-pointer to win it. I still remember to this day.
That's
I
awesome.
remember all that
That's
stuff.
old
right?
school.
And we were all wrapped up in, once again, that sports environment.
Yeah.
And then we moved to Wisconsin. Oh, and we went to movie theaters all the
Right.
time. Like it wasn't even a second question. We just went, right?
This movie's out. We want to go see it.
Yeah. And when we moved to Wisconsin, that was one thing that they started hitting on. I don't know if it was at that church there, but what happened was that pastor ended up leaving for some reasons.
Okay.
And then my parents kind of took up the helm a little bit with
It
a
happens.
few other ladies,
Yeah.
right? And then they teamed up with another ministry like 45 minutes away,
Okay.
right? And so started preaching about TV and stuff. I don't know if they did. Somebody started preaching about TV. There's
Okay.
like 3 different churches we were involved in up there because pastors were coming in and out.
It's a rotation.
And the thing is the pastors that were coming in and out, all coming from college
Yep.
and with
All
jacked
fresh.
up crap.
Yep.
And of course, too, then the standard came for us. We didn't know Hiles.
Yeah.
We didn't know anything about starting a church.
Right.
But you watch Church with a Heart,
Yep.
you see all this stuff,
Yep.
you know
Read
they
your
have this
Hiles
college.
Church manual.
So by accidental default, that was the standard to bring people in.
Gotcha.
Not because we were born into it, right?
Right.
And so each one got a little bit more hardcore.
Right.
But I remember the TV, my parents were like, okay, if it's no movie theaters, it's nothing.
nothing.
We got rid of the TV. I mean, it was good for us in a way because we came from inner city or
Right.
suburbs,
Yeah,
right?
suburbs.
And we lived on 168 acres of land in Wisconsin. So we
Yeah.
were in the woods all the time. We were riding dirt bikes,
That's
things
dope.
like that.
Oh, yeah.
So that shift didn't really bother us too much with
Gotcha.
the TV because it was like we have other things to do to occupy our time.
Mhm.
Most fundamentalist friends that I had,
Right.
like pastors' kids and stuff like that, they didn't have that outside life we had though either. We still had public school friends.
Yep.
We still had the public school. We
Yeah.
still had our sports. We could go outside
We were
and
still
play.
tapped into it.
We still had like independence. You know what I mean?
Right.
It wasn't like we were
Right.
being dictated what to do.
Mhm.
But I remember, so the TV goes out,
Mhm.
right? And then, I mean, when I was really little, we watched Karate Kid. We watched
Oh, yeah.
all those
The
movies.
classics, yeah.
Yeah, all the classics, right? And I even remember watching one, like maybe it was like 8 years ago with my mom.
Yeah.
Put in Karate Kid.
That's awesome.
And I was like blushing because I was like, oh my gosh, look at all these words that's going on. Like, what happened in the 80s?
I know.
You guys want to talk about rap and like
Yeah.
all the music of this day?
The
I'm like,
movies of the 80s or
oh
something
my
else, huh?
goodness, right? Yeah, so I'm like, oh.
Sorry,
No,
Mom.
yeah, so that was different. That was
Yeah.
different. But we did. My parents,
went
though, were to a T.
Full bore.
Like, we're cutting it off.
Yep.
So I didn't know anything about sports. Like, it slowly started to take away all the things that we appreciated.
Right. So what would you say, and I'll get into this a little bit, and I think we want to talk to this in a current day scenario, and we're not going to hit on anything that we would, that would, I don't know what the right phrasing is there, but like, we're not trying to tell you what to do or how to do anything. We're just telling you our experiences as children and as parents.
Yeah.
So as you can tell, we're getting into the interesting part here. So what was not necessarily the difference before, but once you got into the IFB, what was discipline like?
What was discipline like from your parents? What did you?
Okay, so
how was
first
that
and
meted out?
foremost, I was always spanked as a child. My whole entire life. Spanking was the way to correct your children.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Which was fine at the time for
That
us.
was a
right?
generational thing.
Yeah, that was the generation.
Yeah.
Everybody was doing it,
Yep.
right? They tell us if everybody's doing it, don't jump off the cliff. But
Right.
everybody was doing it
Everybody's
at that time,
jumping
right?
off the
So
cliff, yeah.
it was fine. Let's just all hang
Let's all
ourselves.
jump together. Yeah.
Anyway, and so we were spanked as we were younger. But when we got into the IFB churches, dude.
Did it get turned up?
Oh yeah,
No
so
shit.
much. I mean,
Wow.
they would. I remember, and this was the church that we were with, 45 minutes away.
Yeah.
I mean, literally reading scripture that talks about the blueness of the wound and all this
Cleanse
stuff.
it.
Like,
Yeah.
and there would be people that would literally beat their kids until they were bruised
What the
because they were
fuck?
trying to drive out the spirit, or
Oh
what
my
is the terminology?
God.
Break the spirit, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's how they would teach it. Like, you got to break your kid's spirit. Like, if they're rebellious, like I remember sitting in they weren't parenting classes, but they were giving like parenting classes stuff with the kids in there, talking about
Awkward.
from little kids,
Right.
like set something in front of them, and if they reach for it, smack their hand,
What the
right?
fuck?
Yeah, no. So it's like, but that's taking care of it when they're young, so you don't have to deal with it
Right
when it's
when they're
later.
older.
So it's like, well, fine, like. Stuart, here's $1 million. Let me deck you in the face every time you're doing it. No, but anyway, so when that happened,
Yeah.
dude, it started ramping up.
Damn.
But in my life, what was different was my parents were old-fashioned in the way of, in school, like, it didn't matter. It was all about authority. And my parents had this always. Like, if you got in trouble in school, you also got in trouble at home.
Yeah.
What my parents didn't realize about the transition was, in my mind, I always did really well in school when I was younger.
Okay.
Then I'm like, well, I go to church now, and the public school is preached about all the time, right?
Yes,
And evolution
yes.
and all this stuff.
Yep.
I lost complete respect for all my teachers. Actually, there's probably some of them.
Yikes.
There's one I even made cry in church. Now
What the fuck?
I'm Christian boy, right?
Right.
But I know better than these teachers,
Yeah, of course
right?
you do. Yeah.
And I just turned into this.
Because you went to
royal,
college, you know.
Yeah, I turned into this royal douchebag
Oh.
in the public school. Like, no respect for anybody.
Mm.
I would tell them, but dude, I was taking a stand for Jesus.
Yeah, of
you
course.
know?
You were doing the right thing.
And so that was going on. Then the other part was our dress standards started changing.
yeah, for sure.
And that was weird for me. My mom always wore pants.
Yep.
Now it's like she has to wear skirts or else she's a
Yep.
harlot, right? And so
Absolutely.
she's got to dress modest and adorn herself and all that stuff, even though they don't read the verses after that in the Old Testament where it's
You know
like
what I thi-
you have to wear kosher clothing for the man and it can't be intermingled and any of that stuff. But hey,
That doesn't
we don't
count.
want to do that.
No, we don't
and it has
want
to be kosher Jewish. Like,
Yeah.
and that's, anyway.
I think one of the funny things about dresses and skirts, because I don't know who's watching this that knows or doesn't know, and I'm not trying to be demeaning, I'm just saying, there are so many, because that's a big thing in the IFB and in many cults. You'll see the women all wear these very long dresses or
Yeah.
very decent dresses. Modest dresses is the term. In so many instances, pants would have been more modest than those dresses.
Oh, for sure.
So many times.
Dude, okay, I gotta tell you crazy stories
All right.
then, right? Because, and Mom, I love you to death, but this is
what's
crazy.
Story Central.
So,
Tell me.
we all went hunting as a family,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But how do you go hunting modest in a dress
Well, she wears
without freeze your butt off?
right. She wears a dress and she wears snow pants under it.
Yeah, well, you gotta wear blaze orange when you're hunting.
Yeah.
So my mom made a blaze orange skirt, right? And she would put her snow pants on underneath of them so that she was modest while she was there, right?
Well, I remember going skiing a couple times as a teenager, and all the girls in the youth group they would wear enormous snow pants,
Mm-hmm.
and then they would wear culottes that were almost fitting to the snow
Well,
pants.
that gets pulled out from they're not supposed to wear that which pertaineth to a man, right?
Yeah, which is
And
that's
they're supposed to
bullshit.
wear a long and flowing garment,
Right,
and I'm
right.
like, but dude, everybody wore robes; those were long
Yeah,
and flowing.
so- yeah.
Like,
So
there's still
don't-
men's jeans and women's jeans,
Yeah,
and
and
I'm
don't-
sorry, I can't figure out the zipper because your guys is backwards than ours. Not that I've tried on women's jeans, but I did once. And I was like, wait, this is the wrong thing.
Oh, the truth is coming out now.
Dude,
people.
if you ever go to like a thrift store to go get clothes, I'm like, what is wrong with the zipper? And then somebody enlightened me that they're like women's jeans,
yes,
right?
Yeah, and then the buttons are on the other side on the shirts.
Yeah,
as well.
I'm like, dude, I'm
This
not
isn't
getting
working.
this, right? Yeah, so the man shouldn't wear that, which
Right.
pertains to a woman in that case.
Clearly.
I can't button my shirt.
Can't
It's
do
just
it.
common
Can't
sense.
zip up my jeans.
Fuck. No, so anyway, so what was going on in our life, in our brains, which we never talked
Yeah.
about because you're not allowed to question authority.
No, never once.
And we were respectful. I thought we were a close family. Like, my parents had their issues. Like, me and Todd, we had our issues too. Like, we'd fight and normal stuff, whatever.
Right.
But we were having this shift change of everything we knew was slowly turning. And so, if you remember, at Hiles, they always preach against the world.
Yes.
So the way my dad would interpret that, when I go to the public school, all the kids were wearing Jinko jeans, pipe jeans, they're baggy,
Oh my
right?
God, Jinko, yes.
I was all about it.
Hell yeah.
Like, I'm like, baggy jeans, right?
Yeah.
But since it was worldly,
Yeah.
my dad took the flip side approach.
Oh shit.
And so now I have to wear butt huggers, tuck my shirt in, and have a comb-over haircut, right?
That's cool.
Which that was an abomination back then. I mean, in your circles, if you had a comb-over, that was fine.
It's fine, yeah.
In my school, that was bad news.
was
And I
stupid.
didn't grow up that way, right? So,
Right.
and I always used to remember they would preach, you know, you're supposed to be a peculiar people. And I'm like,
Right.
dude, that's peculiar weird. Nobody's talking to you. You're a nerd.
It's a different kind of
And now
peculiar.
what's so funny is what's the world wearing? They're wearing skinny jeans,
Yep.
all that stuff.
They're doing the comb over.
Still
the
to
long
this
hair.
day,
Yeah.
no comb
No.
over, no
No
paint on
skinny.
jeans. That is not
Fuck
the
that
way of
shit.
Jesus.
No,
Like,
it's not.
like, but no.
It's not
so
the
you
way.
have all that culture.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then I go to the public school where you're
Yeah.
supposed to take a stand for
Right,
Jesus.
right.
Because that was the other thing. It was all about preaching the word. But I wasn't
Yep.
preaching the word. I was preaching,
That
Dude,
guy's word.
you're jacked
Yeah.
up. You're jacked
Yeah.
up.
I'm
I'm not
perfect.
playing in this basketball tournament, and you guys are going to lose and forfeit because I'm taking the stand for Jesus.
No shit. That happened?
No, but I mean, it could have. No, but I mean, there were
close to
some
going
real
down that way.
problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
There were some real problems.
So-
And so what happened was, is I started flunking all my classes.
Mm.
I'm like, dude, and two, like sports was my thing, right?
Mhm.
And my dad started setting higher standards for us. Like,
Right.
now you have to get a C. Now you have to excel. You have to
Right.
excel at everything. You have to be good
Right.
at everything. And so as soon as I figured out, wait, I can't play sports if I get a C.
We get C's.
I'm gonna flunk everything. I'm gonna be an ass to my teachers because they don't know Jesus anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So what
And I
does it
turn
matter?
into a royal douche at church.
Damn. Perfect.
Totally different.
It's look that
That's
there's
where the
so many
shift
different,
happened.
Yeah, there's so many different ways to spell it out, but what you said says it perfectly. You're one person at school and one person at church, and they're two completely different people. This religion and many cults promote a higher level of hypocrisy than you'd see in a lot of other religions. Why? Because you're set at a standard of perfection that you're not really meant to reach.
Right.
That mark of the high calling of Jesus Christ, whatever you want to call it. When you get put at that level, you're going to do one of two things. You're just going to hate yourself because you can't get there,
Right.
or you're going to pretend that you got there.
Right.
It's there, and then you can say there's different variations, and I'm not saying there's not, but really those are your two main choices: hate yourself or pretend that you're there. And you know the people that pretend that they're there because you see them every weekend at church and every Wednesday night at church, and they're just so
Right.
happy and perfect and everything. And you know good and well they get in their car and they're just a total piece of shit person. That's what it is. Like, that's what you're dealing with. But
Right.
I wanted to get back to the whole thing of discipline
Yeah.
and spanking. And I will definitely say that I grew up being spanked on a regular basis. In fact, we talked about this earlier. Both of us, our last spanking was at the age of
18.
boom,
18
years old. I got, and I don't recall what mine was for.
I could smoke cigarettes, but I got my ass beat.
But you got your ass beat by dad. So,
I remember mine.
well, do you want to share?
Yeah, dude, of course
go
I do,
for it.
because
Go
it's my
for it.
little prick brother.
Hell yeah.
So
Fuck it.
anyway, anyway, I might have been a little bit older, but I don't think so. I think it was 18, I'm pretty sure. Anyway,
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
so we're driving around in the van. My little brother's in there in the car or whatever, and he's like whining that I'm messing with him.
Be a little bitch.
Yeah, and he's like, he's 10 years younger than me.
Okay.
I'm like, dude, I'm not doing
You're doing
anything.
shit.
And my dad's doing this normal thing. He's like,
Right.
John, you better stop.
Knock it off.
Now, I gotta say this. I'm an antagonizer. So,
I know.
like, I totally get where my dad was
Yeah,
there.
he
It wasn't
knew.
like it was like,
It's not out of the ordinary for
Yeah.
you to be doing that.
yeah, dude, that was me. My whole entire life.
Mhm.
I still do it. Anyway. So anyways, like, John, you know, you better stop, right?
Right.
And he told me, so Tim thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And so he squealed again, like laughing.
Little asshole.
And I'm like, what? And my dad's like, John, if you do it again, you're getting spanked. Now, at that point, I'm like 18 years old.
Yeah.
Dude, my alarm is going off in my head.
Yes,
And I'm like,
dude.
you're going to spank me now? For this kid? And I'm not doing
You
anything?
gotta be shitting me, bro.
So he did it again, and I just, bam, hit him as hard as I could. Because I'm like, dude, I'm getting it. You're getting it too. That right there is a perfect example of why spanking doesn't work. Because I just weighed out my odds.
and
I'm
you're
like,
fuck it.
dude, I'm going to just wail on you, you little
Yeah,
prick. I'm going to
exactly.
own this spanking, and I'm going to walk off. I'm going to be fine.
Jesus. Yeah. And that, I mean, that's good. That's a good little, like, microcosm, I guess I'd call it, example of it doesn't work. And that's not to say that if you spank your kid, they're not going to shut up. Yeah, they'll shut up. I posted something, I don't know, yeah, you saw it.
Oh, dude.
I posted something on Facebook. This has nothing to do with the podcast as far as a post goes. It wasn't on the podcast Facebook page. But I posted something a few, or maybe a month ago about spanking. And it was this, you know, it's one of those viral videos of a parent that went somewhere and something happened and they got home and they wanted to talk about it.
Right.
And it was a mom, I don't even remember what all she said, but it was a mom who'd been at the supermarket and her kids were having tantrums, like kids fucking do. And she was checking out, and some fucker under his breath said something about, you know, like if you would just spank the kids, you know, you'd be good. Some shit like that.
I used to say that shit.
Yeah, for sure I did too, and I used to do it.
Yeah.
And my caption was, "Stop beating the emotion out of your children." And I don't have a whole lot to say on spanking or not. I am a father. But my big thing when it comes to discipline, this has happened after a year, and there's people that have been in therapy a lot longer than me, but this has happened after a year of therapy, just listening to my therapist, and not saying like, oh, you know, she's the way, the truth, and the life, and this is, you know, she's the Bible, but just more like, oh, just try this method.
Yeah.
Man, just employing empathy with your children and just letting them know that it's okay to feel. And there's a guy, I don't know if anyone would even take the time to look up a guy by the name of Justin Baldoni. I may be mispronouncing his last name, but he's doing a lot of stuff for, I would call it modern masculinity and kind of tearing down the whole macho mindset. But he's done a lot of good stuff.
Macho mindset.
Sucks to be you, bro. So, but he's done a lot of stuff on social media in regards to his child, and like there was a picture of him that went viral. You may have seen it. It's him and his father, and they're standing, and his daughter's pitching a huge fit. She's just laying on the floor, and they're just standing there looking at her.
Right.
They don't have any emotion. They're not yelling at her. They're not laughing. They're just, this is what she's doing in this moment. And guess what? Chloe is 4, okay, and she does pitch fits in the store, and it's super embarrassing, and I can't stand it.
Yeah.
But you know, I can tell you right now, because I went through the times when I would do this, the guilt that I would feel if I would give her a swat or like, you know, try to rein her in by like, you know, kind of squeezing on her a little bit. Man, that guilt that is suffocating.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to go to two different aspects. That guilt, whether it was a spanking or whatever it was, some type of physical discipline, that guilt would suffocate me the rest of the day. And I'd be like, man, I feel so bad. Because when you have, I'm not saying all children are the same, but in my experience, when you have a child that is, you know, somewhat impressionable and sweet, and at a young age, when you do that to them, they're going to look at you and they're going to cry, and if you really love them and you really have empathy for them, they're going to look at you with the look. They won't say, how could you do this? Right. But that's what their eyes are screaming at you.
Right.
And when you go I'm just trying to give some benefits here. When you go the opposite direction and you employ just a smidgen of empathy, and instead of, God, this is inconvenient, and this kid's being fucking annoying, and I look like an idiot in this store, I look like a shit parent because this kid is going crazy, and this kid is a good kid, but man, why are they doing this to me right now? Instead of getting caught up in yourself, step out of yourself, step out of the situation, look and understand that this is a child that's not grown, that child is not going to walk up to you and say, I'm very disappointed right now, and I'd appreciate it if we could leave the store immediately.
Yeah.
That's what you say if you were an adult.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
not an adult, so they can't. And I'm going in really micro on this, but like they can't express themselves that way. They can't express themselves by fucking screaming,
Right.
and then they know that you know what that means immediately.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, I know I'm going off on one right now, but I'm almost done. When you go the opposite way,
Yeah.
and you look them in the eye, and you tell, this is what my therapist has taught me, so free session for you guys. You look them in the eye and you say to them, you really are upset right now, aren't you? And they'll nod. They probably won't say any words because they're crying or whatever. And you're really upset right now, aren't you? Mm-hmm. Okay, and you're upset because and talk them through and help them understand that, like, you know that they're upset.
Yeah, yeah.
Hold them, pick them up, hold their hand, get down on their level. There's so many viral videos. I'll get you guys. It's just gonna happen with me. There's another video of a guy. He's wearing he's got black hair. He's got a beard. He's wearing one of those beanies, and he's talking to his daughter. He's on his knees or he's crouched down, and he is just intensely looking in her eyes, and he's telling her because he had just made a joke about her, and she's probably 7 or 8 years old. You've seen it.
I've seen it.
And that guy's so whatever he could say whatever. It doesn't matter what he said. You just watch his eyes. He is locked in with this child, and he is one with her. And in this moment, he's explaining to her that he's sorry that he made fun of her about something, but he is also explaining to her how everything works and that it was a joke and that it's okay and that the rest of her life, there's going to be people that are going to joke about things. And he did such an incredible job with that. So I'm not saying you have to do anything. You're your own person, but just try.
Yeah,
just
and I think one of the things too is...
I'm almost done.
Okay, go ahead. We'll let him do it.
I'm going to hammer it home. I'm almost done.
Gonna...
I'm sorry. I thought we were going
to.
to.
A little bit.
I know.
Anyway.
I need to drink more.
Preach, Stuart.
Yeah, I
It's
will.
like Night Bus. If you
back.
haven't seen the Night Bus one yet,
go back and watch that, or watch it in the future wherever it ends up.
Click on this link right here.
Yeah, don't do that. Fuck. All I want to get at is, I feel like in my experience, and I'm just one dad of one kid, deploying that empathy and just being one with your kid in that moment. Stop worrying about yourself. Stop worrying about what the store manager or your boyfriend or girlfriend or whoever. Stop worrying about what anyone else thinks, and get in your kid's head. This is your child, okay? You know how they think. You know how they feel. Get in their head with them for a few minutes, and just stop. Just stop. Stop everything, because they need your attention right now. So just stop everything. Wherever you are, you may be at home, you may be in the store, you may be at a relative's house, you may be at a fucking funeral. I don't know, but drop everything and give them your attention. There is nothing wrong with that. I'm not telling you don't spank them. I'm not telling you don't discipline them. I can't. It's not my place, and it's not my place to tell you what to do. But try it, and I will be so surprised if there's anyone out there who tries it. I won't be surprised because it won't happen. If you try it, it's going to change your life.
Yeah,
guaranteed. Sorry, John. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I think as Stuart was talking there too. I mean, even before that, spanking is such a hot topic. I already know in my family circles, spanking is a hot topic.
Yep.
But for me, this is the deal: is if you already know the truth and you know how it works, what's the problem with going and looking at another way, right?
There you go.
And one of the big things for me
that applies to so much more than this.
Yeah, no, it does, but
principle.
it's real. Like for me, I can talk to anybody out on the street and hear their perspective. Why? Because it's like, dude, I already know what I know is true,
and you're good,
and I'm good. But the thing is you might say something that is different, that might be truer.
And helpful.
And I might have to adopt that into my life, right? Or I might see a perspective that you say, and I might learn a different angle with my kids, right?
Exactly.
And for me, where the whole spanking thing broke down is when I was a kid, dude, I got spanked the most until my sister came along with that. That's fascinating subject too, because I always thought that was funny too. In fundamentalism, is they're preach from the pulpit you need to do all of these things,
right?
But I noticed by the time I went to college, girls actually hardly ever got spanked.
Huh, interesting.
Compared to the guys. There might be other stories out there, and I'm sure there's abuse and different things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there is.
But once again, if you're Gentile fundamentalism, where you get adopted into it, you're hearing all this stuff, and you're like, whoa, I got to do this. And the way it's preached is like, if you don't do it, you're going to basically damn your kid if you don't discipline them. Yeah. And for me, what I started seeing go on with my family, even though we got spanked as a kid, was the more we got in fundamentalism, dude, my dad was pulling over the car. Once again, this isn't against my dad. He was trying to keep favor with the Lord and make sure I'm not going to hell.
He was manipulated. Right? He thought he was doing the right thing.
Right. And so there I am, lined up on the car and going to town spanking. Yep. And the thing is yes, it was discipline, but then it became something that he prided himself in.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's like, I did the right thing.
I did what God would want me to do.
And so then it increased where now it's all about embarrassment. Now we're turning into soldiers now. We're losing the individuality.
Absolutely.
I had a dad that I was like, you could do whatever you want in life. He always pumped that up into our heads and showed us different things. But then it started turning into this respect deal, which if you look at, this is the funny thing, is we talk about spanking as discipline, which what is discipline? It's to teach people some things, right?
Okay.
The number one topic you hear, I guarantee you look at any thread of an argument of spanking, it's like, that's the reason why there's no respect in this place and blah, 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 blah.
Respect that goes along with that argument.
Yes, absolutely. It's always respect. And it's like, what is respect? That means to me, right? You're not going to embarrass me in public. I'm an adult.
Right.
You're gonna straighten up, right?
Right, exactly.
You're gonna be good, and if you speak out of turn, you're done when we get home, right? And so anyway, let's just play through this scenario because this was my life, right? Yeah. So I'm being disciplined,
right?
Like spanked,
right?
And I'm thinking too, I deserve this.
Yes.
This is what I need to get. I didn't. I fought my mom on it, but we got some funny stories on that. We all did. But when Dad got home, dude, it was over.
Hit the fan,
and the thing was, I went in like, no, I deserve this. I did wrong. I deserve the spanking. Give me the spanking. I disrespected you. I did whatever. My punishment.
Yep.
Exactly. And I got to be a man. And I got to own my punishment, and then everything's going to be okay, right? And they literally teach that scenario where it's like, if you're going to get angry, let them go to their bedroom and wait.
Yes.
Then come in there and say, look,
this is why you're getting spanked.
You're going to get spanked for this reason. I love you. This is going to hurt Daddy more than it hurts you. Now, let me pause there. I'm a father. I used to spank my kids.
Right.
I'm sorry, Mom. Maybe you drank some Kool-Aid that I didn't. But when my kids pissed me off and I went to spank their butt, I wasn't like, dude, you're not hurting me at all. I'm going to light your butt on fire. Like, no joke. Maybe I didn't have the Holy Spirit in my life, but it was never, even if I had to go say time out in the room, I was pissed. That's why you got timed out in the room, right? It's because I'm sitting there trying to force my 5-year-old daughter to sit in adult church because we're starting out a church from nothing because it's the Lord's house.
Right.
I'm going to spank your butt because you're not sitting straight. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, that's a side note of where we're at. But anyway, so this is how it played out in my childhood, right? And once again, we got to say this statement too, because I was one of those guys. I was spanked, and I'm okay. But my favorite thing back to that whole deal,
fuck that,
is if you've never tried it, right? Then how would you know?
Exactly.
Like, what if there's a better way?
You never tried not being spanked. Why? Because you didn't have an opportunity.
Yeah, you didn't.
You there was no I love that takeaway. Instead of just leaving it at that, say, okay, spanking was okay because it was all you knew, but you didn't have an opportunity to know something else. Right. You just didn't. And exactly. I love the idea. I know you have more to say. Well, I definitely want to hear it.
You're fine. You're not your mother's podcast.
It is not my mother's podcast.
My mom's going to be not my son podcast. I love you, Mom.
That's good. That might be the title of this episode. So, I just love the idea. If you are a big fan of Jesus and his teachings, and I don't have a problem with that. I think that's great. He was very counterculture.
Yep.
And counterculture to the 1950s IFB model is not spanking your kids and finding an alternative. And yeah, there's timeout, and there are instances where it needs to be something more extreme than deploying that empathy. But I always come back to that. Like, I love how...
Well, even pulling the Jesus part, this is what's so funny to me, is in the Old Testament, like, they always use Old Testament verses for disciplining their kids,
course,
and it's always out of fear, right?
But
in the New Testament, it's like, no, love covers a multitude of sins, perfect love casteth out fear, because fear hath torment, like, love your neighbor as yourself, love God supremely. It's like, wait a second, like, what's going on
here?
Where's
all the fire and brimstone?
And so, like, I get it, like, I get where you're at, it's where you're raised, I was there. I'm not saying everybody has to listen to what I say like I'm God, thus saith the Lord. Right. But I am saying, like, if you know the truth, then why not listen to another way?
Exactly.
Is it a waste of time? Is it not
Exactly.
worth it? Or is it really because you already did it that way?
And you're
And
lazy.
we don't like to hear that
you're
it's
lazy.
wrong, right?
Yeah, you don't want to change it. And
Yeah.
it's a lot of work. I'll tell you right now, it's a lot of fucking work to change it.
It is. It
and,
is.
And I have to, like, the point I was trying to make is I love that using, and I'm not saying you have to use my method, but like, just however empathy looks to you and your children, I love the fact that that's so opposite of corporal punishment or whatever you want to call it.
Totally.
It is 100% the opposite. And I don't know, that's just me. Like, I've always liked to be different and stand out and try to fuck with the system, and that is something that really does. That old school system of discipline and spanking and that, that whole idea of this is how punishment works, that goes completely the opposite of it. And I love it.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason why I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, no, it's good. And so where I was at in my life,
Yes.
right, is so here we go. Now we're disciplining John, who's an annoying little brat, right? Like, I used to irritate everybody.
Yeah.
My dad would tell me all the time when I would go to school, like, if I got beat up or I got in a fight.
It's your fault.
Yeah, it was. Which it was. Like, dude, he's like, John, if I have to buy you another pair of glasses, he would always warn me. He's like, one day you're going to be beat to a pulp and I'm not even going to give you any sympathy for you. And it was true, dude. Like, I
Brought it
had
on
them
yourself.
like, yeah. And that part I appreciated because
Yeah.
that was his
That's
instruction,
true.
that was teaching, right? But follow me here. Is we got this mindset of respect
Yes.
around spanking,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And so
This is
what
why no one
happens
gives
is
respect because they weren't spanked.
yeah, and so it's like I have to do this to you, John, because you were being disrespectful.
Right.
Boom.
Yes, I remember that
I
conversation.
can't explain it because you did something like wrong, but like I was talking to another adult, or
Yep.
maybe you're being too loud in the other room.
Exactly.
Like now I'm gonna spank you, even
Yep.
though you were having fun and enjoying your friends. I couldn't enjoy my friends playing a card game, so I'm gonna spank you, right?
Yep.
And so anyway, so follow the line of respect. Then I go to school, public school.
Yeah.
Dude, I got in fights all the time.
I'm
all
sure
the time.
you did.
I did, even in college. We talked about that.
Yep, we did.
I got in fights all the time in school. And the funny thing is when I play it back through my brain,
Right.
I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but that's okay.
That's okay.
When I
Yeah,
play
yeah,
it
it's
through
okay.
my brain, it's like, no, you know what? Pause there. I'm going to rewind.
Okay.
So I went and I spanked my kids. I move on from that.
Yep.
I spanked my kids, or I did, Hannah and Ellie,
Mm-hmm.
and then my two oldest, and ended up getting divorced. Ended up meeting my wife now, who's
Right.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Amazing lady. Decided to bring up the idea that we're not going to spank kids.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I'm like,
How'd that go over?
at first, I'm rejecting it. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no, these kids need to learn respect.
Right, exactly.
Like, come
This
on.
is the only way they learn.
Like, they have to learn respect,
Yep.
and we're going to spank them, and all that. And she was telling me different things, and I started reading different articles. And this is why so much I beg people to just look into it.
Look into
Just look
it,
into
man.
it.
Absolutely.
Fine. Don't convert. Don't do anything. Just look into it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like, it hit me where I was like, oh my goodness, like it played through my brain of me getting in fights in school.
Yeah.
Somebody would say something to me, and I would feel disrespected.
Right.
So what's John gonna do? Dude, you disrespect me.
I'm gonna
You're
beat
getting
you.
a beating. Like, literally.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna beat you up,
Yeah.
right? And then, because I got in trouble at school,
Right.
then I come home and I get in double trouble. So I get spanked for feeling disrespected
Right.
at school.
It's just a
But my
s-
parents got disrespected.
It's a cycle.
So then, yeah. So then, here it's going on and on.
Yeah.
And then my brain took me to a further point, and that was my first marriage. And my
Okay.
first marriage was rocky.
Yep.
We had some issues. But not just my first marriage, but lots of marriages that come out of fundamentalism and different things. And the thing is so there's the disrespected part and
Yes.
punching somebody in the face.
Yep.
And then there's
There's
you
that.
deserve the punishment because you
Yes.
did something
Uh-huh.
wrong, so you need to be punished, right?
Mhm.
How many times do you see a man and woman fight? The woman says something stupid that is
Right.
disrespectful. Dude hits her,
Right.
right? And then the woman's like, I deserved it.
Oh God, yeah, that's
Like-
that's a recurring theme.
Like,
for
are
sure.
you kidding me right
Yeah.
now? So you want to tell me, because I that was real to me. Like,
Yeah,
dude, if you
absolutely.
disrespect me, I remember even in the workplace, I worked somewhere, and this is where it kind of like woke me up to my
Yeah.
my issue. And it wasn't that I was just angry. it was like I had a trigger. Like,
Yeah.
dude, and my dad.
Once you felt that disrespect.
Yeah, and my dad did a good job for the area we lived in of where he's like, no, you stand up for yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean? You stand up for
You've
yourself.
got to.
But the thing is in the workplace,
But you got to differentiate between
I shouldn't
standing
be
up for
getting
your
in a fight in the
Yeah,
workplace.
no.
The college dorms, I shouldn't be like tackling some
Some
dude that's like, I
Floridian.
can take you. That was my trigger. I'm like, you can't take me.
I remember that.
Right?
Yep.
And so to bring this full circle,
Yeah.
then, and I highly recommend this too, if you've ever heard of the book Love and Logic or the program Love and Logic,
okay.
it is great because what you realize is you just need to bring your kids to accountability. I went through life coaching and I did the book Love and Logic. And for me, it was all about the kids. We would make up the penalty
Right.
for certain things. It was never embarrassment. Those things
Good.
were not allowed,
Good.
right?
Good.
But if the kids stepped into that space,
Mm-hmm.
we would warn them, but it was from a standpoint of they were choosing into it. So it's like now the consequence, they chose that consequence.
Right.
They're owning that consequence.
Mhm.
And so, like, for instance, if we're going out to do a family activity
Yeah.
and one of the kids is acting up, they're not going to go. It's like, now you understand that we all want to go, but you chose into this, right?
I like that idea of the choice because that's something that my therapist has gone over with me. Giving them that choice, like you said, you're setting it up from the beginning. What I often do, and again, this is my podcast. I'm going to talk about what I do.
Yeah.
What I often do is I'll give Chloe an option, and I'll just say, hey, you can do this or this. And before she gets to like, hey, I want to do this, it's, hey, you have these two options. And children, in my opinion, and in my therapist's opinion, need to be given those options. They don't want all this absolutism and no, this is how it's going to be and this is the way it is. Man, you want to teach your child to be closed-minded the rest of their life and
Right.
have a career they hate and end up being in a relationship with someone they can't stand? Sure, if that's what you want for them, yeah, make sure you enforce that. But if
Yeah.
that's not what you want for them and you fucking shouldn't want that for them, then help them understand that there's always options. There really are.
Yeah.
It may not be the options they want,
Yeah.
but at least there's options. And I like what you're saying. Like you have like more of an overall option set up. Like they know, hey, if we're going to do this thing or if this thing's going on or for whatever offense you do, this is the option of what's going to happen to you
Right.
next. It's not getting beat. It's just this is what it's going to be. It's not
Yeah,
going to be fun.
and the good thing too
Yeah.
is like what you said is you cannot document. My parents
Yeah.
tried to do that.
Yeah,
They're
oh my
like,
God.
dude, if you do this, it's 5 swats.
Yeah.
If you do this, it's 2 swats. Like
that we did
that
that
was
too.
a joke.
That was I remember going through that, and it
Yeah.
was an absolute
And
shit show.
dude,
Like,
we
you can't keep
posted it
track.
on our
And-
fridge.
Oh yeah, we
and
had it.
everybody that walked in, it was like, oh, okay, you spank
Yeah.
your kids.
Yeah.
High five.
All
Like,
right.
let's do this.
Go
it
work.
hurts me more than it hurts
Hurts
you,
you.
but like, look at that. That's the qualification
Exactly.
if we're friends or
Yep,
not. Right?
exactly.
Anyway,
It's the card.
But anyway, yeah. So we went to this Love and Logic scenario and
yeah.
started going through all that, and then of course I was doing all this reading, and
Yeah.
of course my wife, which this is unpopular too in our ranks, I was like, dude, you're right. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't do this.
Your wife is right.
Now, I got to tell you some crazy things about this deal because everybody's nervous because those that have gotten spanked
Right.
are nervous. Like, dude, I won't want to screw up my kids, though.
Right.
Like, it was familiar. We still all have that trigger where it's like, well, I'm okay, like, minorly okay. And I
Right.
was spanked, so it's okay. I
I'll
still
do it
have
to
that
my
issue.
kids, too. Yeah.
I was trying to mull it around in my brain where
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, look,
It's hard
if
to
my
let go
kid
of.
goes to touch the stove, I might
Right.
slap their hand.
Right.
Because that's going to hurt them less than what that is.
Right.
But still, even, I'm like, there's better ways.
You can't
So
equate
this
it.
is what I
Yeah.
did. This is me personally, and I'm. Oh, another thing I want to say
Mm.
too. We got to go back to this. You talk about how you interact with Chloe.
Right.
Let's just throw it out there. Every kid is different.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
Dude,
And
I
they're gonna
had my
react
dad's
differently.
personality as a kid.
Yeah.
And I feel really bad because I had other siblings that didn't have that personality,
Mhm.
and they got treated the same way. And my dad was doing the best that he could with
Yep.
what he knew,
Yep.
right? But dude, I loved it. I'm like, dude, you want to beat me? Beat me. I don't care, right? I
Fuck
was
it.
fighting on the playground
Right.
anyway.
Exactly.
But I like a more coach mindset. Like if I'm
Right.
screwing up, tell me I'm screwing up. Get in my face.
Right.
I'm gonna go kill it, right?
Right.
But I had other siblings that were more sensitive,
Not
and
the
that didn't
same.
work that way.
Yeah.
They liked communication,
Yep.
things like that. And spanking is a blanket deal, where
Absolutely.
it does. It's not effective.
It's not well.
for everybody.
It's not allowing for anomalies. It's not. Excuse me. It's not allowing for someone to be different. It's like you said. It's a blanket. It's the same for every single child, and every single child, every single human. We're all fucking different. And if you want to just across the board, it's always the same. Like, nah, that's fucked up. That's
Yeah,
not gonna
no, it
work.
is.
It's not gonna work.
Yeah, so for me, here I'm going through this whole process.
Yes,
Right? I'm about to get married to this chick, and I know this thing is kind of going down.
Yep.
Right? And it's going against my grain, but I know that it's right.
Yeah.
Right? And so this is what I do. I line up my kids. My oldest, Jaden's never really gotten spanked from me, I don't think. Maybe once.
Yeah.
Maybe kicked me in the nuts or something like that.
Happens.
See, and I wasn't like, I'm more sorry than you.
Right.
Like,
You're like,
I'm
I'm
feeling it more than
pissed.
you. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, you just kicked me in the
No,
nuts.
it's not cool.
But no, so this was actually a really emotional time for me.
Yeah.
Because I knelt down on the ground, I remember, and I looked each kid in the eye.
Mm-hmm.
And my Hannah, she is more of my sensitive daughter,
Yeah.
right? And Ellie is the one that's more like my personality.
Right.
And so I looked at Hannah, and I remember I said, Hannah, I just want to let you know it's not okay for anybody to hate you.
Yep.
Ever.
Mm-hmm.
And Daddy's made mistakes, but I want to let you know from here forward, I'm never going to spank you again. And even me just saying that, like, I totally teared up, which is
Yeah.
a little indifferent for me in
Yeah.
this category, because right when I said that, I was like, holy crap, I've hit my daughter, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I get it, it's through spanking, but what I realized was it crushed my daughter's spirit, because
It does.
she was sensitive.
Yep.
She has issues, she has her outbursts and stuff. And my kids, like, after doing that, and even with Ellie, and then Jaden too, my kids at my house have been completely different.
Yeah.
Now, we still have our issues,
Sure.
but different things that we started going through, like with and this is where every kid is different.
Yeah.
And discipline is different for each kid, and that's what I think
It has to be.
is so weird, right? Like my oldest daughter,
Mm-hmm.
she is more sensitive, but the thing is she goes ballistic, right?
Yeah.
So when she goes ballistic, then what? That goes against my grain. I get
Absolutely.
angry.
Yeah.
So my deal with her is I'm like, look, sweetheart, you got to learn how to communicate it.
Right.
I want to know what you're feeling,
Mm-hmm.
but what this isn't okay.
Right.
I understand that it's bad, but I want you to know that you can talk to me. How you can tell me anything,
Right.
and I'm not going to demean you. You're not going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
This is free space,
Yes.
right? And I remember, and this is the thing, you learn from your kids too. So she's
Yeah,
9,
A lot.
and she's in the kitchen, and I remember she said something to my wife, and my wife said, Hannah, go to your room. And it was because to my wife at that moment, she thought she was
Right.
talking back, but I just told her, as long as she doesn't whine, she can tell me what's going on, right?
Right.
And she looked right at me, because kids know. She's like,
Yeah.
but Dad, I didn't cry, I didn't scream, right? And right then, once again, if we want to
You
talk
knew.
about conviction,
Yeah.
I'm like, no, that's right.
Yep.
And I had to square it away with my wife later,
Right,
but I'm
for
like,
sure.
all right, let's talk, right?
Yeah. Let's figure
And
this
then
out.
it brought her to being calm, right?
Yeah.
And then my other daughter, my middle daughter,
Mhm.
like, dude, she's just like me. She bounces off the walls. She talks all the time. High energy, irritator. Like, you don't want to know the brain that this kid has. I mean, just
That's amazing.
yeah. So it's different, but I get her too, because the thing that I realized about Ellie and like myself
Yeah.
was she's a very honest kid,
Yeah.
but she's very passionate about being honest.
For sure.
And so before, I'm like, no, like this happened, you're getting spanked, right?
Yep.
She's like, no, but Daddy. I would take that as, you're not listening to me, you're
Right.
talking back.
Right.
Now I'm like, wait, like I
Listen.
want to hear what you say,
Yeah.
right? And then when she gets through it all, because I know she's got her part and stuff,
Yeah.
then we deal with the accountability,
Right.
and then she can go do whatever. And then
Right.
Jaden was a very well-mannered kid for a long period of time,
Yeah.
but he's starting to get into his
Cranky
stage too.
Yeah.
But once again, for him, it's about put him in the corner or whatever, and he'll say,
Yeah.
I'm bad because I'm the parent. Like my kid says something, I laugh. Like if it's
That's
funny,
funny.
I'm like, dude, that's funny. Like that's a good one.
Props.
But the thing is, honestly, it's like, aren't we real human beings?
It's so
Like,
it's
dude-
so it's so difficult. I mean, I think to meet that, to like kind of try to balance that. I guess my point to that would be, I agree with you 100%. They say something that's fucked up, and you're like, yeah, that shit's funny though. Like,
Dude, I've given free passes because I'm like, you know what, that's a good one, Elliot.
and I actually had something like that happen recently. But I think the distinction to make with them is like helping them understand that, like, yeah, sure, that's funny, but maybe don't say it at school. or maybe don't say it around
No,
this person
right.
or that person. Like I'm not trying to shit on what you're saying. I'm saying
but what's
like,
a better learning
that kind of-
opportunity
yeah.
to actually giggle because you're a real human being,
Right.
and then say, you know what, that's not okay though.
Right.
I'll give a scenario. So we're eating
Okay.
at dinner, right?
Yeah.
And it was all about eating all your food in my house. And if you didn't, you had it for breakfast. Like my parents were hardcore.
For
Like
sure.
you just had to finish it. Even if it was fish sticks and tater tots, which I don't know who would eat that
I
as
could
a
go for some
meal.
tater tots though.
Not fish sticks. Oh my
No, I
gosh,
hate
like
fish.
that's nasty.
That's funny. I ate hella fish sticks, dude. I feel you.
Yeah, no. I'm like, that and liver and onions? Like, dude, if you're making your kids eat that stuff, you need to get spanked. What the heck?
Oh god, my dad loves liver. It's so gross.
Dude, it is. It's like an old fogey thing. Sorry,
Totally
like, no
is.
offense.
No, not.
Well, who makes
That
their
is
kids
not
eat
offensive.
that and then spanks them?
Yeah, come on.
That's child
Come
abuse.
on.
No,
That's
so anyway,
fucked
so
up.
we're sitting there at the
Yeah,
table
you're
and there's
sitting there.
something that she didn't like.
Yeah.
And I'm obnoxious. I'm obnoxious with my kids. I'm like, Ellie, there's people in Africa that are starting
course
to. And
you
I
are.
did it in my obnoxious
I
thing.
love it.
And she goes, yeah, Daddy, but they're poor.
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm not knocking them, but I'm like, dude, how did that come out of your mouth?
What the fuck?
Right? And I was like, okay, like I get it. But then even think of that little scenario. I just went out, we went and had a fabulous dinner.
Right.
I didn't eat all my food.
Yeah,
I'm still
we didn't.
fat.
Yeah.
I didn't eat all my food. And you know what? It was great company.
Yeah.
I'm not saying what you need to do there, but I'm
Right.
just like,
I get it. Like there,
it's
again,
just so many things. But remember, your kids are humans.
Yep.
And it's about relationship.
Dude, so much about that. So I like that what you're bringing to me. What you're bringing it back to is balance, and like that is, I think balance. Life is balance. Life is this difficult, arduous task of finding out your work-life balance and your balance in your relationships, your
Yeah.
balance in what you eat, your balance in your daily activities. Your don't overwork, don't underwork. Make sure you put in a good 8 hours or whatever you need to put in to get the job done, but don't tax yourself too much. Like I think finding balance is just it's such a beautiful thing when you find it. So
Definitely.
I think it's applicable to every area of your life, and whatever area of your life you're skipping finding that balance, you're going to be struggling in.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we're all going to have our struggles, but that's my opinion. And especially I feel like it's easy to skip that when it comes to child rearing because we're so busy. This is America. We've got to make that dollar bill, and that's not making the dollar bill to get ahead and make a shitload of money and have a high rise. That's great if that's you. I'm happy for you.
Right.
Send some of it my way. But the point I'm trying to get at is the majority of us, and I would think probably a lot of my friends here that are consuming this podcast would look at it and say, yeah, man, I don't have time to rear my kid. I'm at work all day, kids at daycare or school or preschool all day. Like, hey, I get it. But when you have that time with them, understand that this is the relationship that you.
Right.
This is one of, if not the most important relationship that you find that balance inside of. That's very important.
Yeah.
Very important.
No, it's interesting that you say that because I was just thinking of ministry
Yeah.
because I had Hannah and Ellie, and that's when they got spanked the most,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, of course.
But it's like, dude, my kid's crying, but I drug her out on a bus route all day.
So fuck you, man.
Because it's
Yeah.
about my relationship to Jesus,
Yeah,
not
not
my
her
relationship
relationship
to
to
my child.
Absolutely.
And she's misbehaving.
Yep.
It's like, but she's hungry, she's tired,
Yep.
she's cranky, like.
like any
But
child
then we
or
would
any
pride
human
it
would be.
ourselves. Oh, we take our kid on the bus route. Well, you
I-
sit at home and you,
Dude, I went on the bus route every day
dude.
when I was a child, and then as a teenager as well.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, I
it's
remember that.
crazy.
Yeah.
It is so nuts.
It's fucking stupid.
And that's part of the switch for me. Thank God my parents weren't doing the bus route stuff
yeah,
and all
good
that.
for you, dude.
Like I did. That
You
was
didn't
a
miss
good
anything
spot
good.
for me because I did have a relationship with my parents.
Yep.
We did some really cool
That's
things.
awesome. Good. Well,
But yeah,
I think we could go on this for a while, honestly. But I like everything we've said so far, and I think we've made some great points. And you know what? Excuse me. Just like the post on my Facebook wall, some of you aren't going to agree with this. Is going to piss you off. Cool. That's
That's
fine. But in unison, that's fine. But we're not here. I think the point here is we're not here to tell you like, hey, we figured it out. We know exactly how you should rear your
dude, be
kids.
an individual and check into it.
But
just check into
just
it.
look into it. And the other thing that I want to make very clear is me and John both come from a background of absolutism and people telling us, no, there's these 4 things. You do this. There are books. We were looking some books up last night. There are books written by IFB leaders on child rearing, and they are they're chock full of fucking shit. We're not here to say, hey, we figured this shit out. You should do this. No, we're here to say there's another way, and you should strive to find it. We don't have. You just said
No,
every
and to
kid's
be
different.
honest too, like another thing
Yeah.
is you're well equipped. Like they're your kids.
Yeah,
Like don't
no
forget
one
that.
knows them better
They're
than
nobody
you.
else's kids.
Yeah.
This is a good point too.
Yeah.
Like when I was dating at Hiles Nursing College, this will come full circle.
Right,
Don't
right,
worry.
right, okay.
But when I was dating, everybody read the books Dating with
This
a
will
Purpose.
all make sense.
They read the marriage books and
Yeah.
all that stuff. And I remember the girl I was dating at the time. She was like scaling me up to that deal.
Yes,
Right.
uh-huh.
I'm like, look, I don't want to be the dude that's in the
not-
book. That's
no.
what works for his marriage. I want to
Exactly.
be the dude that
Not
can write a
me.
marriage book
Yep.
because we're successful.
Exactly.
Because that's us, right?
Yeah.
And that's just like child rearing too. Like those are your kids.
Same thing.
You have everything inside of you.
Yep.
You just gotta start popping the lid and just starting to learn.
Yep.
And really observe from your kids. I learn from my kids every single day. But I'm a nerd, so but
No,
my
but you
kids take me
can.
to school more than like work. right?
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely, dude. I'm with you 100%. So we have more to talk about. We are going to get into one last subject. I don't know how long we're going to take on it because
Yeah.
I'm not telling you guys what time it is, but like my eyelids are drooping right
dude,
now.
I'm sorry. I don't have
Don't
to do
be-
anything in
no,
the
no, no.
morning, and I just keep pouring.
This guy's just going. But I don't want to skip this last thing that we want to
Yeah,
talk
no,
about.
definitely.
But I do feel like we've kind of set our piece on disciplining your children, and I want the last point from both of us to kind of our last points to both coincide and kind of come to the point of, hey, we are not here to say we're the experts and we haven't figured out. We're just talking about what's worked for us, and we're talking about how we were raised and the fact that if you need to say the statement, I was spanked and I turned out okay, you are not okay. That's such a big one for me.
Right.
But we're also here to say, like, again, check into it. Try it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Do something different.
And just love your
don't-
kids.
Just love your
Like,
kids.
just
Don't beat
love
your
your
kids. You don't need to beat your kids. And yeah, spanking is beating, okay? I've
Yeah,
had that discussion
totally.
way too many times. Well, I just what you're beating your kid. Just stop.
Yeah,
Stop.
totally.
Anyways, that's
I love you.
I'm gonna go.
Good stuff.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna go too far down that trail.
I dig the glasses.
Thank
Anyway.
you. I appreciate it, dude.
Yeah,
I think it's
I just
the
got it. I was
it's
like,
the rum.
it is
Um,
not. Kirk Swinney? All right. Anyway.
So we're gonna the last subject we're gonna talk about is transitioning out of the independent fundamental Baptist movement, which is something that we've both done, and I would say we've both done it successfully. Maybe
Well, we're still on the journey because there's still
Yes.
stuff, but yes.
yes, but that
successfully.
part of the journey I think is done.
Yeah.
We've finished that part of the journey. It's safe to say, looking at me being blocked from Hiles Anderson on Facebook and Instagram,
Dude, I
I've
haven't
made my
gone there
way
yet.
out.
Those are
Yeah.
legendary points.
No
There is somebody
legendary
out there that
points.
talks about legendary points. I will not throw his name under
No
the bus.
names. You
But
know who
you
he
got
is.
the
I
you
definitely
got
feel like I got
the
a couple.
legendary points.
A couple for sure. But my transition, I don't talk about it a whole lot. The circumstances surrounding it, I'm very happy to be done with the independent fundamental Baptist movement. I'm even happier to be outing a lot of information and letting you guys give me your feedback and hearing from people that are on their way out or already are out and are letting me know, like, hey, this is helping me or this is speaking to me in some way, shape, or form. So, I don't have a whole lot to say about transitioning out, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm out of that. I'm done. I'm happy to be out. And I'll tell you this, and I've said it before, two things that I want to say, and I'll let you say what John wants to say, but there's so much. It is a sigh of fucking relief. There's so many things. And I'm not dissing your church, even if it is or is not IFB. Well, if it is IFB, I'm dissing it. But I don't got to go to church on Sunday morning. Not only do I not have to go to church, I don't feel bad. I'm not waiting for a text. Where were you? What's going on?
Yeah.
Are you okay? I'm not going to walk into church in a week or two and have someone confront me and say, and even in a nice way, even though you know they're not fucking being nice, say to you, oh, hey brother, we missed you on Wednesday night. Like, I don't have to worry about any of that shit.
Right.
And I'm not saying that doesn't happen in other churches. I'm sure it does. But I don't have to worry about it at all. Why? Because I decided to do me and have my own thing going on. So that's a smaller portion of that. But like, I'm out and I'm very happy to be out of that mess.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lot more to go with that. But there's freedom, there's relaxation, there's happiness, there's a huge exhale on the other side of all that mess. And you don't have to stay in it. and you don't have to live in it, and it's not easy to get out, and it is a process, and it is arduous, and it is painful, and you will lose friends, and in many cases, you're gonna lose family. And I don't say that to be dismissive of it. I say that to say, prepare yourself. Because if you're on your way out and you think you're gonna hold on to everyone, I respect that, and I love you for that, and in all reality, I want that for you. But you need to be prepared to know that that is not the reality of exiting a cult.
Right.
The IFB is a cult, and if you're prepared, and if you really want to exit it, you have to prepare your heart and prepare your head to lose people. But the one thing that I've said many times, and I want to reiterate, is the fact that I know, again, this podcast, I'm talking about religion, the IFB specifically, I'm talking about those things a lot, and how terrible they are and how much I hate them. But I always want to drive home the point that if you have a religious thing that you do, if you have a church you go to, a God you pray to, and you're not shoving it. My two caveats are, if you're doing this thing that's religious or godly or church-like, or you attend a church, and you're not shoving it down someone's throat, and it's not causing anyone harm, and so 3 things, and you feel like it's bringing benefit to you, why wouldn't you do that? Do that. I'm not, and again, my approval, I know, doesn't matter one way or the other. It doesn't, and that's fine. But if you're looking at this podcast and you're thinking, well, this guy just has a bone to pick, and he's just pissed off, yes, I'm pissed off, and yes, I have a bone to pick, but there's a lot more to what I'm saying than that. There's a lot more to who I am than that. And the point that I always like to make, any chance I get, is if you are serving a God and you're part of a church and you feel like I said, it's bringing benefit to you and your family, and you also aren't causing harm to anyone, and you're not shoving your version of God down anyone's throat, man, do it. I'm happy for you. That's great. I've gotten in more than one fight on Facebook and social media where someone's just railing on me for how much I hate God and religion. I don't. But the problem is I hate your version of it sometimes, yeah. And that's the truth. So anyways, again, those are my caveats, those are my points, and I just wanted to kind of bring it, like John said a couple times, bring it full circle and talk about the fact that this isn't a lynch mob. We're not witch hunting here, but the truth is it's okay to transition out of the IFB and find something else that works for you.
Yeah, most definitely. And a lot of you probably don't know from a lot of the podcasts, but because me and Stuart get along so well, is that I actually do go to church on Sundays.
Oh yeah.
We have a good community, and I know to them, maybe watching this video, it might be a little bit foreign.
Right, for sure.
But I'm okay with that, because to me, I know what truth is, yeah. And I believe what Stuart is doing here, I believe he's exposing some real truth, and I think truth is needed, Yeah. And that's why I want to be a part of this too. And for me, a part of the transition, it wasn't just like pull out an IFB,
right,
and then
cold turkey,
and then you cold turkey it, because what we all know, well, at least what I know, is what's very important is community.
Yeah.
So whether it's podcast community, or whether it's community of
humans
people
are tribal.
That come out.
We're tribal.
Definitely.
Yeah,
and even if you want to look at the word church, right? I know it's like so bad in our brains from fundamentalism.
For sure.
And I still have issues in that, right?
Absolutely.
It's a called out assembly,
Yep.
But if we want to talk about unity and people coming together, I mean, we all know that hate and that agenda and manipulation, that's all bad stuff.
Yep.
Whether you read the Bible or not, the Bible is clear on manipulation.
Absolutely.
You can't do that, right?
Yep.
But anyway, your transition is going to be very different, but what's most important is community.
Yeah. So finding something.
Find somebody to reach out to, and just communicate. Like, if you can't speak freely with people, once again, like I talked about in the spanking part, like,
right.
Dude, if you believe something and it's true, you shouldn't be threatened by everybody that talks to you.
Exactly.
Especially if you're in ministry.
Oh God, no. No way.
Like,
no.
What? I never understood that,
Mm-hmm.
And so...
so defensive.
The beautiful thing is we're all different individuals, and we all have different filters, and we all see things different ways.
It's perspective.
That's how we all learn.
Yep.
But the thing is when you have this is what I would say about church too. If you have a controlled environment... Yeah. Where somebody is telling you, or a controlled relationship where you have to think this way, you have to be this way, you have to feel this way, people are trying to change you or whatever. To me, if it's truth, you're going to change because you see the truth. Just like spanking. Dude, I was in rejection to that whole idea. I was like, babe, we're not going there, right?
Yep.
But that's what my body was saying. But I'm
Right.
like, you know what? Let me hear
Think
your point of
about
view.
it. Yeah.
And look at where I'm at today.
Yep.
Not that it's a notch on my belt anymore.
Right.
We're all growing. And we cannot grow if we don't grow together. And
Ooh,
that's where
good.
perspectives
That's
is
good.
at. And see, that's why for me, traditional church bothers me. Because you have one man stand up,
Yeah.
tell everybody how they're supposed to believe.
It's a dictatorship.
It totally is. Because I'm sorry, if you want to talk about the body of Christ, which I cherry picked, one of the other things is dude, we're all different.
Yep.
Like totally different. We see the world differently. But if we don't all come together,
Yeah.
right? There's a Beatles song. Anyway,
Right now, yeah.
Sorry, yeah. If
No,
we
it's
don't all
good.
come together, really, honestly, and it's not this universal harlot crap.
Right.
Like, dude, we need to learn and grow from each other.
Yeah.
You guys have perspectives that I might not see. Honestly, even if they're in IFB,
Yeah.
like honestly, if they're willing to have a communication thing, I can learn something from them.
No, fuck them.
No,
I'm just kidding.
No, I can. I totally can because
I
why?
take that opportunity.
I get it. The reason why is because I've been in their shoes. I
Yeah,
can see where they're
totally.
at, and I'm
Absolutely.
like, dude, I get you. But dude, if you're coming off as my way's the only way, my way or the highway type
And
shit,
that's not even religion. That's in business. That's in politics.
Yes.
That's everything. Like,
dude, where
if
I
that's
work,
yeah.
honestly, that's changed my whole life. If you want to talk about transitioning out of IFB,
Yeah.
dude, once I've opened up those perspectives and you can learn from everybody, you know how to manage people,
You're,
you know how to impact
you
people.
have such a
like,
your life
dude,
is so
it works.
It's fuller. You're
It
living
is
a
fuller.
real life now. You're not. Look, so it's funny because they try to make it a positive thing, like keeping your blinders on, like a horse would. Like the IFB really works at like, and they talk about
Yeah,
that. I've
I
heard so
remember.
many sermon illustrations, but take them off. Take off those. Just come on. Just take them off.
Yeah.
And see the world. You can see the whole world now. Because before you're only in this lane, you can only see this.
And
you can only
impact it.
see, yeah, exactly.
There was a moment in my life which, you know, I might get some flack for this, but for those that understand
Yeah.
me as a person and weren't just trying to protect their name, there was a moment in my life where I wasn't able to go to church, right?
Yeah.
And so, and dude, I made my mistakes, right?
For sure.
But it wasn't what it was played out to be.
Yeah.
But that's fine. Like, I love the comments. Go for it. Anyway, if you
Line
do,
'em up.
if you do, then I'll say names,
Right,
which
right.
nobody will like that. But anyway.
They never do.
So, no, but in all honesty, for all of the people involved, when I was out of there, I'm like, dude, I moved to the state
Yep.
to minister to people.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I came down here for.
Yeah.
And, like, dude,
Now-
I made my own choices. I have my own consequences. But, like, I was out there with nobody. And I remember I learned more about God not being in church than being in church in a building,
There
right?
you have it. There you have it.
Because while I was outside of it, I would call up my
Yeah.
mom.
Yeah.
And my mom will testify. This is so funny. Testify, did I just
Oh
say that?
shit.
Do I have a witness? No, anyway. So I would call my mom up, I remember, and I'm like, you know what, Mom, I just realized? Like, I'm not going to be on my deathbed, and I'm not going to be like, man, I wish I went to church one more time on my deathbed. That is never going to happen. No one ever. Right? If the church is the body,
Yeah.
then have relationships.
I'm here.
Why
Yeah.
is it the building and the work and all that stuff?
It's the money. Dude.
It's the fellowship. No, exactly. But
Yeah.
you follow the money, you see problems. That's
Yeah, there you
that's,
go.
That's one.
There you
and then
go.
the other one for me was huge because I was always a giver.
Yeah. Yeah.
And tithe, right? And when we were in church, which that's a whole nother podcast, but I gotta hit
It
this
is.
note. With tithe, it was all about you have to give your money to church.
Yeah.
And this is of the first fruits. This is God's money, right? And you have to give it. And the thing that was always told to us was, don't worry about where the money goes. Trust God with that money, right?
Even though you're handing it to a man.
Even though you're handing it to a man that's in prison, right?
Yes,
And
now.
once again, like, dude, I get it. The system sucks, though. The system produces
System will fuck
it.
you up. Yeah, I get
But
it.
anyway, so
Still make your own choices.
here I am.
Yep.
I call my mom another Sunday. Hey, God knows I can't go to church. Where am I supposed to tithe? This is universal. What am I supposed to do with my money?
What do I
Like, I got a free pass?
Right.
Like, dude, I just got rich, right?
How about that?
But no, like, to me, giving was still important.
Yeah.
And what I realized was, dude, I go out to eat.
Yep.
I'm going to give a fat tip. I was giving like
Yeah.
$50 tips because I knew that money would go further in that pocket right there than anyone else's.
church's
So to
coffers.
me,
Yeah.
from the business standpoint, right, being a good steward of your money and wanting to make a wise investment,
Yep.
I'm like, dude, if God's going to do something with the money, He's going to do it further in that pocket
For sure.
than the light bill, the $1 million deal, all that stuff.
The suits,
Why
the
do you
cars.
need a building?
You don't.
Why do you need a
don't.
multi-million-dollar building?
Look, and if we're gonna talk about Old Testament, New Testament, like that building wasn't a thing.
They
for
were
Jesus.
a fellowship.
Jesus and his disciples. Where was it?
They
Where
went
was
to
the
houses.
Where was the one central location where Jesus and his disciples always met and worshipped? Oh yeah, there fucking wasn't one.
Yeah.
That wasn't a thing.
No, there's so much stuff.
There's a
So
lot.
much there.
There's a lot. So
But anyway, to bring it full circle, like honestly, the transition it's rough, but find a community. If that's a church, that's great. Just make sure once again the church isn't going to be a controlling.
you're not going back to. If you're getting out of the IFB,
Oh yeah, there's
you
something.
know what to look for. You know where you're coming from. You know the fucking red flags. You know them. And so if that's what you're coming out of, that's what you're escaping from. You know what to look for to not go from the frying pan to the fire. You
Yeah.
know how to not do that. So don't.
Yeah,
do that.
you know how to do that, but there is a principle, and this is a biblical principle, and it's so true because actually this has become so much a part of our life
Yeah.
that it's easy
It's ingrained.
to go to another
What's
thing.
known.
And so there's a scripture that talks about promising to give people liberty, but you're actually putting them in a bondage, right?
Yep.
And so what happens is you're like, oh, this church has no rules.
Right.
Right? But then they got this new package of rules where it's like extra holiness or righteousness or Bible studies and all this stuff.
Yep.
And it's still something you're being measured to. To me, if you're being measured, then you're not on a journey. You're being a robot, right? And so they're
Boom.
making you a robot.
That's good stuff.
That's red flag, right?
Yep.
But if you want a relationship, find people that are okay with you being you,
Mhm.
you know?
That's good.
And
That's a very good point.
yeah,
I like it.
the transition's hard. It's rough. And there's stages to it. There
Yeah.
really is.
There is.
But
And
don't hold yourself in so much judgment. People that want to know truth
Yeah.
will find truth.
You will. You absolutely will.
For sure.
So, I think we're gonna close it with
Yeah.
that. But man, some great points from John. I'm so glad that you came on. And
Thanks for letting me, dude.
yeah,
I
dude,
love what
of
you're
course. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. So, just I don't know, a lot of great points that he closed it with. I always try to bring it in with some hook and close it. But man, the stuff that John said right now, we got to go back as we did before and watch this over again.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of really good points. So at least the last 20 minutes or so of this, I'm not saying the first half or whatever, or the first portion of it was crap, but I really enjoyed these last few minutes. We really delved into some heavier topics and some things, just some principles that you don't have to use them. You don't have to give a fuck about them. You can throw them out the window. But I really appreciate what you had to say, and I myself got into some territory that I was happy I got into. So,
Yeah, no.
without further ado, we thank you and are very grateful for your support for the podcast and for checking it out and for watching this episode. And I think it's because I'm tired. I keep doing this thing. I don't know why I'm doing that. I just want to talk about it for a second. No, definitely that's not going to help.
Hey.
For once
Candy
in my
is
life.
dandy, but liquor is quicker.
It is quicker. But I don't know. I just want to speak to that because I don't know why I keep doing that. Just so you know, I'm not having a stroke or an aneurysm yet. But it's maybe in the near future. Anyways, thanks so much for watching this episode of Not Your Mother's Podcast. Thank you, John, for coming on. In all seriousness. And stay tuned, guys. We got more great stuff to come. And we're so grateful that you came along for the ride.